All right, let's talk about something that always seems to get people riled up, the death penalty. It's one of those things, just brings up so many questions. Justice, morality. I mean, do we as a society ever really have the right to take a life? It's heavy stuff, and it's not just theoretical either, right? You sent us this article from the United Daily News, so something's clearly going down in Taiwan.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation, and I think to fully get it, we got to remember what Taiwan's dealing with, like on a bigger scale. They're a democracy, of course, so public opinion, that's huge GE over there, but they're also right across from mainland China, and, well, let's just say China's got a tad of a different outlook on these sorts of things.
It's all about context then. So give us the lowdown. What's the headline everyone's freaking out about?
So Taiwan's constitutional court, they just made this ruling, and it's got people doing a double take, honestly. They basically said, straight up, the death penalty on its own, not unconstitutional. Butte, and this is the kicker, how it's actually done, like the actual process of it all, that has to meet some super specific criteria to be considered constitutional.
Oh, man. That's how you set off a firestorm in the legal world. I bet the political fallout from that was, well, fallout.
You already know. And this United Daily News piece, they dove right in. Premier Su Tseng-Chang is over here trying to keep things calm. KMT legislator Hung Ming-kai is basically hitting the panic button. We've even got Justice Minister Chang Ming-chen stepping into this minefield. It's a lot.
Wow. Okay, so we're not talking about some minor players here. These are the big leagues. Break it down for us. Who landed on which side of this ruling?
Well, you've got the KMT, right? They're generally seen as being, shall we say, a bit more supportive of the death penalty. But this ruling, they're calling it a sneaky way to get to de facto abolition.
Okay, time out for a sec. For those of us who haven't dedicated our lives to legal jargon, what exactly does de facto abolition even mean?
Basically, it means the death penalty is still technically there, like on the books officially, but the way it actually plays out or doesn't makes it almost impossible to actually, execute someone. A lot of countries have gone this route, and it's usually a stepping stone towards getting rid of it for good.
So the KMT is looking at this ruling like it's the first domino about to fall, and they don't like where it's headed. What about Premier Su, though? He's got to be a little more diplomatic about this whole thing, yeah.
Totally. He's doing that whole politician tightrope walk. On the one hand, he's all about upholding the law, respecting the court, all that jazz, but he's also emphasizing due process. It's almost like he's saying, look, this ruling, it changes things, even if I'm not quite ready to just chuck the death penalty out the window completely. Classic.
Never seen a politician straddle a line before. But here's where it gets really interesting for me, because it's not just some abstract legal theory anymore, The article mentioned this guy. He's been on death row since 1999. 1999. Still hasn't been executed. That's got to be playing into this whole thing somehow.
Oh, absolutely. That's a massive point of contention in all this. Taiwan has had a moratorium on executions before, but it's this weird in-between state. This one case, though, it really throws a spotlight on that gap between having a law on the books and actually putting it into practice.
It's almost as if this whole thing, this ruling,
right.
It's like they pointed a giant spotlight at this guy's case. Now everybody's watching, wondering what happens next.
It's true. And here's where things get even more, messy. The article, it brings up Taiwan's citizen judge system. Ever heard of this thing?
Citizen judges. Not ringing a bell, honestly.
It's wild. Basically, sometimes just regular, everyday Taiwanese citizens, they can be jurors in trials, like alongside the professional judges, the ones who went to law school and all that.
Wait, seriously? So you're telling me, like, average people off the street could have a say in whether someone gets the death penalty? That's something else.
Right. And the article, they bring up this whole other problem. What if those citizen judges, what if they vote for death, but then the professional judge, the expert, is like, nope, I don't agree. Talk about a legal tug of war.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a real head scratcher. Like, whose call wins out in that situation? The people's.
We're the guy who spent years studying law.
Exactly. It makes you question the whole thing. Like, what does justice actually mean, and how do we actually do justice? Especially with something as emotionally charged as the death penalty, people on both sides, they feel so strongly about it.
No doubt. So we've got this new ruling shaking things up, got politicians scrambling, that 1999 case looming over everything. Oh, and can't forget the whole citizen judge factor.
Yeah.
So what's the bottom line? Is this it? Is this the beginning of the end for capital punishment in Taiwan? I get why people might see it that way, like a turning point, but I wouldn't bet the farm on it just yet, I mean, it's not like Taiwan's the only country wrestling with this stuff. All over the world, governments, they're grappling with this death penalty question, and there's no easy answer, no one-size-fits-all solution.
So how do things usually change? Like, how does a country actually go from, yeah, we got the death penalty to it's gone, abolished?
It's not usually some big overnight switch, you know?
Huh.
It's more like the slow burn. Sometimes there's a big legal case, some landmark ruling that just changes everything. Other times, it's public opinion gradually shifting. More and more people start looking at alternatives to capital punishment, thinking maybe there's a better way.
Like all the pieces have to fall into place, huh? The legal arguments, the political will, and just like what regular people want, it all has to line up.
Exactly. And even then, it can be messy. Setbacks, political pushback, stuff you don't see coming. Look at Europe, for example. They abolished the death penalty decades ago, lots of countries there, but you still find people, even whole groups, who want it back, especially after some horrible crime happens. Gets everyone fired up.
It really makes you think, like these issues, they're not just some abstract thing. They're woven into the fabric of a society. You know, history, culture, even national identity. It all plays a role.
100%. And that's what I think makes this whole situation in Taiwan so fascinating to watch unfold. It's not just about a legal decision, you know what I mean? It's a window into Taiwan itself, like how their place in the world is changing, evolving.
And, hey, we can't forget, right? Taiwan's right there next door to a place that, well, let's just say they're not exactly known for being lenient on capital punishment. That's got to add a whole other layer to this whole situation.
Oh, for sure. That's the geopolitical reality, isn't it? China's always there in the background, and we all know they do things a little differently, especially when it comes to, well, you know, this whole death penalty thing. It's almost like this unspoken challenge, you know, like Taiwan's using it to say, hey, we're different. We do things our own way, even if it ruffles some feathers.
Right. It's this question's hanging in the air. How far is Taiwan willing to go to define themselves, even if it means going against what their big, powerful neighbor wants? And this whole death penalty debate, it becomes this unexpected battleground for something way bigger.
Exactly. It goes beyond just laws and legal stuff. It's about what kind of country Taiwan wants to be, what they want the world to see. It's a big statement.
It's almost as if, like, this whole debate is just a stand-in for a much bigger conversation about, like, who's really in control. You know, it's like Taiwan saying, look, we've got our own values, our own legal system, and we're not afraid to stand by them, even if it makes some people uncomfortable.
Yeah, you nailed it. And that's what I think makes this so interesting to watch. It's not just about some legal debate or even some philosophical argument about what's right or wrong. This is about the heart of a nation, you know? Figuring out their own identity, their own path. It's a big deal.
No kidding. Man, we really went deep on this one. Started with your question about this article on Taiwan's death penalty, and look where we ended up. The court's new ruling, the political back and forth, that 1999 case that's got everybody on edge, even that whole citizen judge system. That's a lot to wrap your head around.
It just goes to show you, right? You start with one little news story, and before you know it, you're down this rabbit hole of complexity. It makes you think about justice, about what it means to be a nation, about history, even your own beliefs. It's pretty wild.
You said it. So, to everyone listening, we've taken you behind the scenes on this one, shown you how it all works. Now it's your turn. What do you think about the death penalty, especially in Taiwan's case? No easy answers there, but hopefully this deep dive gave you some things to think about, you know? Helped you see all sides of it. Keep those questions coming, though, and those source links, too, because that's what we're here for. We'll dive into anything. Until next time, keep asking those big questions, folks.